I'm Daniel Sinacero, CEO of Connect Media. And this is part 2 with Hessam Nadji, CEO of Marcus & Millichap. Hessam, thanks for joining me.
Daniel, thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure.
Hessam, let's get into part 2. Okay, we talk about opportunity within real estate, and when the stock market is dropping and investor confidence is slowing, and they have a chance to go into brick and mortar, and they have a chance to have a safe asset. How do you walk people through that process of wanting to know that it's time to come into real estate when values are this high, but at the same time interest rates are low, so this is a perfect time to jump in? What's the conversation with as your team is walking an investor into being a part of the industry?
It really depends on the investor and the investment horizon, risk tolerance. If they're already invested in whether it's the stock market or real estate, and what the capital is doing, what the returns have been. In a pure comparison of the stock market to real estate, there are so many of our clients that have a parallel strategy. They are highly engaged in the equities market, and they're very deeply involved in commercial real estate. You can have a diversified strategy that allows for both. But just looking at pure valuations over the past 24 months in the equities market and the tax benefits of commercial real estate, and going to your statement of values being very high in commercial real estate, yet supported by high occupancies, supported by really solid rent growth. Take apartments for example. Literally every bit of value appreciation for apartments has been supported by effective rent growth and incredible occupancies, despite the amount of new product that we put on the market, as just a proxy, as an example of the fact that valuations have been supported. You could argue that retail, for example, is not quite as well aligned between values and rents, but you've seen values adjust on the retail front. Even within retail, you have to bifurcate from single tenant net lease, which has done great, and casual dining and fast food and so on, versus obsolete malls, for example, that are not doing so well. So it all depends on the individual strategy and risk tolerance. The beauty of our business is the spectrum of choice that really can be tailored to whatever the investment objectives are. And I don't believe it's too late for that. And the lower interest rates that we're now seeing today at record lows really help facilitate that process.
So let's get into the crystal ball part. Actually, no, let's just get into the intelligence that you have. If I was investing in real estate right now, commercial real estate, what sector and what market would you recommend? You talk about different asset classes, you talk about different parts, but I was coming in an opportunity. I was a first-time investor, and you knew that you wanted to create decent cap rate. Where would that be?
Well, I've never gotten that question before, Daniel. It's the first time. It's the most commonly asked question, right? It's interesting in this cycle and where we are in it, so many markets have improved economically across the United States. And so many product types have improved because this expansion has been broad. So normally you'd have a basket of markets that have been left behind, where you could say they're the diamond in the rough. And I'm not so sure if we have such a bifurcation of markets, because you've seen job growth in secondary markets, you've seen job growth in tertiary markets. What's interesting is that capital flows have really preferred secondary and tertiary markets over the last 36 months. Chasing yield. So I think that there is still opportunity in secondary and tertiary markets, but I also see value add opportunities in apartments in primary markets, because not every asset has been touched, not every asset has turned over, not every asset has been renovated or repositioned. Therefore, I think for just about every investment appetite, there is a strategy to deploy. Now, having said that, I really believe that the office sector has been the laggard, both in terms of rent growth and values. I think there is a lot of opportunity in the office sector. We still see a lot of opportunity in apartments, frankly. Both new projects that have taken off, where now you're seeing a resurgence of demand for core apartments in urban markets as well as suburban markets, Class B renovations. And to me, retail is the ultimate sort of turnaround story. We're seeing example after example of investments in old tired centers that are being repositioned, that are being re-tenanted and put in the path of what is working in retail. Fitness, food, entertainment, and creating the experience. Those are not cliche. They're actually working.
When we first met today, you had mentioned that you got the Marcus and Millichap team from West and East, and you'd been on since 4 a.m. this morning. How are you informing your team, and tell me a little bit about what that conversation's like?
I have the privilege of being partnered with an incredible group of people that are so thirsty for information. The culture of the entire firm has been driven from day one to provide value-added services to the consumer of our services, institutional investors, private clients, and everything in between. There's almost an obsession with making sure that we have the latest and greatest information, that we're thinking through what this could mean for the client. Some of the topics you and I are bifurcating and slicing and dicing right here. And so that puts us in a position of very frequent communication. We put out over 1,000 research publications a year. We put out so many electronic products with 26 million plus downloads, all for the purpose of educating the client. So for us internally, the reason I got on the phone and the video conferences this morning, working my way from the East Coast to the West Coast, is because I want to make sure everyone on the team has a synthesized understanding of the latest and greatest facts and has a strategy to get out there and talk to their clients. You know, we have at any given time literally thousands of listings being marketed and thousands of projects under contract or in some phase of going under contract. And so being real time with the data, being real time with the valuation and what it means to bring the buyer and seller together is a huge part of the art of brokerage. And so that's why we put a lot of value in frequent communications inside the company.
Well, Hessam, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for taking the time, and thank you for inviting me into your offices here in Calabasas. And I look forward to doing this again.
Daniel, it's my pleasure. Thanks for talking to me.